Mohan Radhapati Prabhu had asked a question. Who is the supreme of demigods? Is it Brahma or Shiva? Here in purport, Prabhupada writes Brahma. As far as the posts go, the post of Brahma is supreme. Brahma Padavi is superior to Shiva Padavi. But Adi Shiva is superior to Brahma. That's different. But Brahma Padavi is superior to Shiva Padavi. Then Bhavagrahi Nandanandan Prabhu had asked about Kailasa, which is beyond Brahma Jyoti. Lord Shiva's abode. Lord Shiva's abode. Whether Lord Shiva's worshippers who want to serve Lord Shiva, are they allowed to be there in Kailas, which is beyond Brahma Jyoti eternally or not? Those who accept Lord Shiva as their guru and accept Lord Vishnu as the supreme being and who want to glorify Lord Vishnu in the association of Lord Shiva, they are sent to Lord Shiva's abode on the other side of Brahma Jyoti. We find evidence of this in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, part 2, when Gopakumar goes, when he crosses Brahma Jyoti and he sees Lord Shiva. And they're all singing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his Vishnu expansion. So once you go that side, then you don't have to fall down. In the Shastras for Lord Shiva worshippers, how do they explain about the concept of liberation to their followers? The concept of liberation is identical. It's the same. That you do not experience samsara. You do not experience birth, death, old age, disease continuously. That concept is there. Okay, so let's resume. Something is happening. I don't know what is happening to this. I'm not able to adjust all these images. But keep it like this and then with some else. Okay. Vasudeva is the original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. As explained before, the original personality of Godhead expands himself by innumerable forms. Such expansion of forms is made possible by his various energies. His energies are also multifarious, and his internal energies are superior and external energies inferior in quality. They are explained in Bhagavad Gita 7.4 to 6 as para, as the para and the apara prakritis. So his expansions of various forms which take place via the internal energies are superior forms, whereas the expansions which take place via the external energies are inferior forms. The living entities are also his expansions. The living entities who are expanded by his internal potency are eternally liberated persons, whereas those who are expanded in terms of the material energies are eternally conditioned souls. That means the living entities can choose to subordinate themselves to the internal potency or the external potency. Strictly speaking, those who refuse to surrender to the internal potency are forced to submit to the external potency. So expanded in terms of means whether they are situating themselves under the care of the external potency or the internal potency. Therefore, all culture of knowledge, austerity, sacrifice, activity should be aimed at changing the quality of the influence that is acting upon us. For the present, we are all being controlled by the external energy of the Lord, and just to change the quality of the influence, we must endeavor to cultivate spiritual energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that those who are Mahatmas, or those whose minds have been so broadened as to be engaged in the service of Lord Krishna, are under the influence of the internal potency. And the effect is that such broad-minded living entities are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord without deviation. That should be the aim of life. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajanti ananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. That should be the aim of life, and that is the verdict of all the Vedic literatures. No one should bother himself with fruitive activities or dry speculation about transcendental knowledge. Everyone should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Nor should one worship different gods who work as different hands of the Lord for creation, maintenance, or destruction of the material world. There are innumerable powerful demigods who look over the external management of the material world. They're all different assisting hands of Lord Vasudeva. Even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are included in the list of demigods. But Lord Vishnu or Vasudeva is always transcendently situated. Even though he accepts the quality of goodness in the material world, he is still transcendental to all the material modes. The following example will clear up that matter more explicitly. In the prison house, there are the prisoners and the managers of the prison house. Both the managers and the prisoners are bound by the laws of the king. But even though the king sometimes comes in the prison, he is not bound by the laws of the prison house. The king is therefore always transcendental to the laws of the prison house, as the Lord is always transcendental to the laws of the material world. 30. Right. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhuji, when you mentioned that living entities can choose whether or not they want to be under internal potency. So, like we have heard a so-called controversy about
No,
jivas
that's not a
falling
so.
down.
There is a controversy. Controversy means some people disagree. That's all. There is a real disagreement. We are
So,
not dreaming that they're disagreeing. They are really disagreeing. People disagree
yeah.
about hundreds of things. Whether God exists also. That is also a controversy only. That doesn't mean it's a controversy in our minds. The controversy in society. Like that is a controversy.
So we are clear that like we were there and then we had
I
chance.
am clear. I am clear.
Can you
I'm
make us
very
also
clear.
clear, Prabhu?
It's a simple point. The living entities belong to the marginal potency eternally.
Okay. So, like one of the points which they say, Yad Gatvana Nevardante, they argue on this point that how can this be false? If we were there, how can we come here? If once who goes there, he doesn't come back, how can you come back if you
Baladev
were there?
Vidyabhushan has explained what it means. It means that you don't fall down the way you fall down when you go to Swarga. Swargadipata. It's not like fall down from Swarga. If you go to Yantideva Vrata Devan, you worship the demigods, you go to the demigods, lokas, and then you have to leave. So to contrast it, Lord Krishna says, it is not like that when you come to me. That's all he's saying. That's all he's saying.
Thank you, bro.
Okay. Saevedam sasarjagre Bhagavan Atmamaya Saddasad Rupaya Chaso Gunamaya Guno Vipupu. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead Vasudeva, in a transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. Question. All the scriptures are in agreement that are in agreement about the creation and somebody's entrance into it and controlling it and so on. Now, how is it all of a sudden you're saying that everything is focused on Vasudeva? So then in 4 verses it is pointed out, it is Lord Vasudeva who entered into the universe, who created the universe, entered into it, and who's maintaining it, and so on. So this is an answer to the question. Please tell us about the magnificent activities of that person. Agunaha, transcendental, indicates that even though the Supreme Lord himself is beyond the modes of material nature, still he deals with this universe. The position of the Lord is always transcendental because the causal and effectual energies required for the creation of the material world were also created by him. He is unaffected, therefore, by the qualities of the material modes. His existence, form, activities, and paraphernalia all existed before the material creation. Sripad Shankaracharya, the head of the Mayavada school, accepts this transcendental position of Lord Krishna in his commentation on Bhagavad Gita. He is all spiritual and has nothing to do with the qualities of the material world, which are qualitatively distinct from the spiritual qualities of the Lord. 31. Taya vilasite shveshu guneshu gunaniva antah pravishta abhati vidyanena vijrumbhitaha. After creating the material substance, the Lord Vasudeva expands himself and enters into it. And although he is within the material modes of nature and appears to be one of the created beings, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. It has been stated that Bhagavan is the cause of the universe. Now, Sutta Goswami speaks about a particular pastime of that Bhagavan, characterized by his entrance into the universe and his maintaining the universe. So now that creation has taken place, the 3 modes of material nature have now been manifested. So then the Supreme Lord, he enters into the manifestation of the 3 modes of material nature in the form of earth, water, fire, air, ether, and so on. And he appears to be connected with the modes of material nature, which means he considers these modes of material nature are now under my control. In reality, he is not in contact with them at all. Why is that? Because he is fully enriched with spiritual potency. The living entities are separated parts and parcels of the Lord, and the conditioned living entities who are unfit for the spiritual kingdom are strewn within the material world to enjoy matter to the fullest extent. As Paramatma, an eternal friend of the living entities, the Lord, by one of his plenary portions, accompanies the living entities to guide them in their material enjoyment and to become witness to all activities. While the living entities enjoy the material conditions, the Lord maintains his transcendental position without being affected by the material atmosphere. In the Vedic literature, Shruti, it is said that there are 2 birds in one tree. Dva suparna sayuja sakaya samanam vriksam parishasva jate tayoranya pipalam swadvatyanashnan anyor vichakashiti. One of them is eating the fruit of the tree while the other is witnessing the actions. The witness is the Lord and the fruit eater is a living entity. The fruit eater, living entity, has forgotten his real identity and is overwhelmed in the fruitive activities of the material conditions. But the Lord Paramatma is always full and transcendental knowledge. That is the difference between the super soul and the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, living entity, is controlled by the laws of nature, while the Paramatma or super soul is a controller of the material energy. In other words, there is one person who makes rules, and there are the other persons who are all subject to those rules. Vidhi Vashyatvat, Bhakti-vaibhava Thakur points out. That is the distinction between God and the living entities. He makes the rules, and everybody else has to follow the rules. That is the implication of the statement, Ekale Ishwar Krishna Arsa Vritya. 32. Yatha hyava hito vahnir darushveka swayonishu naneva bhati vishwatma bhuteshu cha tathapman. The Lord as super soul pervades all things, just as fire permeates wood. And so he appears to be of many varieties, though he is the absolute one without a second. So the Lord engages in a pastime of accepting various forms. The Supreme Lord is the super soul of the universe. So he is hidden within the various living creatures who are born in various species of life. Even though there is one Antaryami, one inner controller amongst all the living creatures, he appears to be many, because there are many living creatures. Another example, another way of explaining this is, he has himself expanded himself in the form of the living entities, the Jivatmas. The Jivatmas are also expansions of the Lord, separated expansions of the Lord. Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by one of his plenary parts, expands himself all over the material world, and his existence can be perceived even within the atomic energy. Matter, antimatter, proton, neutron. In all these, one can perceive the manifestation of the Paramatma feature of the Lord by proper spiritual culture. As from wood, fire can be manifested, or as butter can be churned out of milk, so also the presence of the Lord as Paramatma can be felt by the process of legitimate hearing and chanting of the transcendental subjects, which are especially treated in the Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam is the bona fide explanation of these Vedic literatures. The Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. Therefore, one is required to approach the proper spiritual master with the receptive ears only, and thus divine existence is gradually realized. The difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. The human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot. "33. Asau gunamayar bhavet. Bhuta sekshmendri atmabhrihi. Swanirmiteshu nirvishto bhumte bhuteshu tadguna." The super soul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. Here is the pastime of causing the living entities to experience material existence. This Lord Hari he engages himself with the gross and subtle elements, the senses, mind, and so on, amongst the living creatures of four types. So he experiences them, meaning he causes the living entities to experience them. Or another example is, or another meaning is, he protects this entire universe. So he experiences this universe in the sense, through the living entities, he experiences this universe. There are 8,400,000 species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being, Brahma, down to the insignificant ant. And all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. The gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind, and the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. The Lord as Paramatma helps the living being to get material happiness because the living being is helpless in all respects in obtaining what he desires. He proposes and the Lord disposes. In another sense, the living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are therefore one with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord as his sons. The sufferings and enjoyments of the sons are indirectly the sufferings and enjoyments of the Father. Still, the Father is not in any way affected directly by the suffering and enjoyment of the sons. He is so kind that he constantly remains with the living being as Paramatma and always tries to convert the living being toward the real happiness. 34. भावयत्येष सत्त्वेन लोकान् वै लोकभावनः लीलावतारानुरतो देवतिर्यं नरादिषु. Thus the Lord of the universes maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. Now, this is the answer to the question. Sutta Goswami, you know the purpose for Lord Krishna's appearance here. So the Supreme Lord, he protects this universe. This is a common, in this way he fulfills a common requirement through his various incarnations, through all of his incarnations. The specific purpose for which Lord Krishna descends will be noted in Kunti's stuti, Kunti's prayer. Loka Bhavana means Lokakarta. Loka Bhavana means Lokakarta, the creator of the universes. The master of the universes in the sense of being the creator of the universes. So he is attached to performing various Leela avatars. He repeatedly descends and performs various pastimes. There are innumerable material universes, and in each and every universe, there are innumerable planets inhabited by different grades of living entities in different modes of nature. The Lord Vishnu incarnates himself in each and every one of them, and in each and every type of living society. He manifests his transcendental pastimes amongst them just to create the desire to go back to God. The Lord does not change his original transcendental position, but he appears to be differently manifested according to the particular time, circumstances, and society. Sometimes he incarnates himself or empowers a suitable living being to act for him, but in either case, the purpose is the same. The Lord wants the suffering living beings to go back home, back to God. The happiness which the living beings are hankering for is not to be found within any corner of the innumerable universes and material planets. The eternal happiness which the living being wants is obtainable in the kingdom of God, but the forgetful living being, under the influence of the material modes, have no information of the kingdom of God. The Lord therefore comes to propagate the message of the kingdom of God, either personally or as an incarnation or through his bona fide representative as the good son of God. Such incarnations or sons of God are not making propaganda for going back to Godhead only within the human society. Their work is also going on in all types of societies amongst demigods and those other than human beings. Chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Okay.
Prabhu, even in animal society, Krishna takes regular
He comes
incarnation.
as Varaha, he comes as Narsimha.
But he comes for humans only, but like animals, how they will understand?
No, there are also celestial animals.
Okay.
Gajendra, for instance, was a celestial animal. Airavata is a celestial animal. There are uh, Nagas. These are celestial serpents.
Hmm. And in the translation, last translation, 34, it was written to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. So what happens to other people, those who are not in mode of pure goodness? They are
They
not
are
reclaimed.
benefited. They are benefited because the whole idea is to move people from Tamoguna to Rajoguna, to move the living entities from Tamoguna to Rajoguna to Satoguna. Just as they have these placement interviews, and they
Mhm.
only deal with the final year students
Yes.
like that. This is Krishna's placement interview.
And
Are
others, they
you
will, that next year I'll get them.
the others? They need to move up to the next. They need to go on. They need to go on.
Thank you, bro. Nice explanation.
Chapter 3, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. There's a question, meaning of celestial animal. Oh, there are several. First of all, the demigods have the ability to change their forms, but it looks like they have limited ability. They do not have unlimited ability, and it looks like there are various grades also. For instance, Brihaspati can appear or disappear in Indra's presence, but Indra cannot do that trick in front of Brihaspati. Brihaspati is higher. So it looks like um, this kind of expansion and transformation technology is there amongst the celestials, just that I don't understand it right now. Just leave it. Next one, Sutovacha. जगृहे पौरुषम रूपम भगवान महदादिभिः संभूतम षोडशकलम आदौ लोकस्य सृक्षया. Suta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universes. Rashida Swami, Avatara Katha Prashne, Tritiye Tu Tarabhita, Purushadyavataroktya Tat Charitra Varnanai. There were questions pertaining to how the Lord incarnates. The answers regarding them are presented in the third chapter. And this is done by presenting a list of uh, the incarnations headed by the Purusha avatars with brief descriptions of each of their activities. So there was this question that was previously asked. Uh, Please tell us, O intelligent Sutta Goswami, about the auspicious incarnations of Lord Hari. Or rather, please present to us the auspicious narrations of the incarnations of Lord Hari. So now, as an answer to that, one by one, he begins to describe them. And he starts with the Purusha avatar. The Purusha avatar is described in 5 verses, beginning with text 1. So, the Supreme Lord, first of all, he engages in the activity of uh, dealing with material creation. He is manifesting all the ingredients for the material creation. The ingredients are Mahadadibhihi, beginning with Mahatattva, Ahankara, the five sense objects, sound, touch, form, taste, smell. And in that, there are the 11 senses, the 5 gross elements. So in that way, there are 16 principles of material action. Even though the original form of Bhagavan is not of this nature, that he is just having to engage in these activities. Still, as the super soul of the Virat jivas, in order to help us meditate on the Virat form, Virat Rupa, Vishwarupa. Therefore, Bhagavan has been described in this manner. That should be understood. The Bhagavad Gita states that the personality of God, Sri Krishna, maintains these material universes by extending his planetary expansions. So this Purusha form is the confirmation of the same principle. The original personality of Godhead Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, who is famous as the son of King Vasudeva or King Nanda, is full with all opulences, all potencies, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. A part of his opulence is manifested as impersonal Brahman, and a part of his opulence is manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of the same personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. There are 3 Purusha features who affect the material creation, and this form, who is known as the Karanodakashayi Vishnu, is the first of the 3. The others are known as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, which we shall know one after another. The innumerable universes are generated from the skin holes of this Karanodakashayi Vishnu, and in each one of the universes, the Lord enters as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is also mentioned that the material world is created at certain intervals and then again destroyed. This creation and destruction is done by the Supreme Will because of the conditioned souls of the Nitya Baddha living beings. The Nitya Baddhas, or the eternally conditioned souls, have the sense of individuality or ahankar. They have the sense of material individuality or ahankar, which dictates them sense enjoyment, which they are unable to have constitutionally. The Lord is the only enjoyer, and all others are enjoyed in reality. The living beings are predominated enjoyers, but the eternally conditioned souls, forgetful of this constitutional position, have strong aspirations to enjoy. The chance to enjoy matter is given to the conditioned souls in the material world, and side by side they are given the chance to understand the real constitutional position. Those fortunate living entities who catch the truth and surrender unto the lotus feet of Vasudeva after many, many births in the material world, join the eternally liberated souls and thus are allowed to enter into the kingdom of God. After this, such fortunate living entities need not come again within the occasional material creation. But those who cannot catch the constitutional truth, means those who cannot catch the truth about their constitutional nature, are again merged into the Mahatattva at the time of annihilation of the material creation. When the creation is again set up, this Mahatattva is again let loose. In Sanskrit, the word Srishti, which means literally, which is commonly translated as creation, Srishti, Sarga, Sarjana, all of this has the sense of discharging, letting loose, and samhara, which is commonly used to refer to dissolution, destruction, refers to bringing back in. When the creation is again set up, this Mahatattva is again let loose. It's just like when I boot up a computer, then my entire file system now becomes manifested to the user. Prior to that, it was not manifested. It was there in the hard drive, but now it is manifested. This Mahatattva contains all the ingredients of the material manifestations, including the conditioned souls, because the conditioned souls are now injected into it. Primarily, this Mahatattva is divided into 16 parts, namely the 5 gross material elements and the 11 working instruments or senses. It is like the cloud in the clear sky. In the spiritual sky, the effulgence of Brahman is spread all around and the whole system is dazzling in spiritual light. The Mahatattva is assembled in some corner of the vast, unlimited spiritual sky, and the part which is thus covered by the Mahatattva is called the material sky. This part of the spiritual sky, called the Mahatattva, is only an insignificant portion of the whole spiritual sky, and within this Mahatattva, there are innumerable universes. All these universes are collectively produced by the Karanodakashayi Vishnu, called also the Mahavishnu, who simply throws his glance to impregnate the material sky. 2. Yasyam bhasi shayanasya yoganidram vitanvataha nabhi hradam bhujad asid brahma vishwas trijampati. A part of the Purusha lies down within the water of the universe. From the navel lake of his body sprouts a lotus stem. And from the lotus flower atop this stem, Brahma, the master of all engineers in the universe, becomes manifest. In response to a question which may arise, who is this Supreme Personality of Godhead? Who is this Bhagavan? Sudha Goswami characterizes him in the current verse. In that single ocean, he is resting. He is in a state of yoga nidra. Yoga refers to a state of trance. And he is sleeping. And his sleep is actually a trance. So at that time, from his navel, from the lake of his navel, a lotus comes up. And from that, Brahma comes up. In Padmakalpa. So the Supreme Lord, he manifested that particular form of Karanodakashayi Vishnu. The first Purusha is a Karanodakashayi Vishnu. From his skin holes, innumerable universes have sprung up. In each and every universe, the Purusha enters as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. He is lying within the half of the universe, which is full with the water of his body. And from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu has sprung the stem of the lotus flower, the birthplace of Brahma, who is the father of all living beings and the master of all the demigod engineers engaged in the perfect design and working of the universal order. Within the stem of the lotus, there are 14 divisions of planetary systems, and the earthly planets are situated in the middle. Upwards, there are other better planetary systems, and the topmost system is called Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. Downwards from the earthly planetary system, there are 7 lower planetary systems inhabited by the Asuras and similar other materialistic living beings. From Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, there is expansion of the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, who is the collective Paramatma of all the living beings. He is called Hari. And from him, all the incarnations within the universe are expanded. So all the 3 Purusha avatars are considered, can be considered to be gateways. And therefore, all of them are described as the source of the incarnations. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Purusha avatar who is manifested in 3 features. First, the Karanodakashayi, who creates aggregate material ingredients in the Mahatattva. Second, the Garbhodakashayi, who enters in each and every universe. And third, the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, who is the Paramatma of every material object, organic or inorganic. One who knows these plenary features of the personality of Godhead, knows Godhead properly, and thus the knower becomes freed from the material conditions of birth, death, old age, and disease, as it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In this shloka, the subject matter of Mahavishnu is summarized. Mahavishnu is Karanodakashayi Vishnu. The Mahavishnu lies down in some part of the spiritual sky by his own free will. Thus he lies on the ocean of Karana, from where he glances over his material nature, and the Mahatattva is at once created. Thus electrified by the power of the Lord, the material nature at once creates innumerable universes, just as in due course a tree decorates itself with innumerable grown fruits. The seed of the tree is sown by the cultivator, and the fruit or creeper in due course becomes manifested with so many fruits. Nothing can take place without a cause. The Karana ocean is therefore called the causal ocean. Karana means causal. we should not foolishly accept the atheistic theory of creation. The description of the atheist is given in the Bhagavad Gita. The atheist does not believe in the creator, but he cannot give a good theory to explain the creation. Asatyam ma pratishtamte jagadahur anishwaram. This is the idea of the demons. Aparaspara sambhutam kimanyat kama haitukam. There's no God, there's no purpose. The variety of life that you see has simply come about by reproduction. This is actually modern biology, that's all. It is called the philosophy of biology. There is something, that's a subject called the philosophy of biology. And this is that bloody philosophy of biology. Material nature has no power to create without the power of the Purusha, just as a Prakriti or woman cannot produce a child without the connection of a Purusha or man. The Purusha impregnates and the Prakriti delivers. We should not expect milk from the fleshy bags on the neck of a goat, although they look like breastly nipples. Similarly, we should not expect any creative power from the material ingredients. We must believe in the power of the Purusha who impregnates Prakriti or nature. Because the Lord wished to lie down in meditation, the material energy created innumerable universes at once. And in each of them, the Lord lay down. And thus, all the planets and the different paraphernalia were created at once by the will of the Lord. The Lord has unlimited potencies, and thus he can act as he likes by perfect planning, although personally he has nothing to do. No one is greater than or equal to him. That is the verdict of the Vedas. Natacchamascha drishyate. Yes.
Prabhuji, in last purport, first verses purport, there was one line that eternally conditioned souls have strong aspirations to enjoy. So how I can undo my strong aspiration to enjoy? Prabhu, your voice is breaking, Prabhu. Not coming.
No, somehow I'm not able to connect to my Geo because I think the Geo needs to be renewed. It's a nightmare. But somehow it seems to work. The current one itself seems to work. So I'll just pray to God and leave it at that. 3. Yes, yeah.
Prabhu, what about question?
First the question he asked, and second you are
Oh,
not
what was the
sharing in
question?
the screen.
I have strong aspiration to enjoy. How can
All
I
of
undo
us,
it?
all of us are suffering with all these stupid things. So what we should do, we should focus on Panchanga Bhakti. If we don't focus on Panchanga Bhakti, forever we'll be suffering with these strong aspirations. That's all. We should just follow Rupa Goswami's instructions as presented in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Upadeshamrita. That's all we know. Constantly be thinking about how to make spiritual progress. Very, very important. Constantly be thinking about that, how to make spiritual progress. Krishna consciousness is a pursuit, and the full responsibility is placed on us. The responsibility is not on Krishna or on Krishna's representatives. Responsibility is on us. So we have to take responsibility for them. Okay, 3. Yasya vayava samsthanai kalpito loka vistara tadvai bhagavato rupam vishuddham sattvam. It is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, but he has nothing to do with the creative material ingredients. This body is eternally and spiritual existence par excellence. What is the nature of that form? That is now presented here. Talking of the Virat Rupa. When the Lord enters into the universe, then the universe itself is considered to be an extended form or extended body of the Lord. That imagery is used in the Upanishads, and therefore it's used in Bhagavatam also. So which particular form are we talking about? We are talking about the form in which the Lord lies down in the Karana ocean. But that form of the Lord, the original form of the Lord, is Vishuddha. It is not touched by Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Strictly speaking, it is not touched by Rakrita Sattva. So it is simply unbounded, essential spirit. The Supreme Lord's body is fully spiritual. It shines in Sachidananda. And the conception of the Virat Rupa or Vishwarupa of the Supreme Absolute Truth is especially meant for the neophyte who can hardly think of the transcendental form of the personality of Godhead. To him, a form means something of this material world, and therefore an opposite conception of the Absolute is necessary in the beginning to concentrate the mind on the power extension of the Lord. As stated above, the Lord extends his potency in the form of the Mahatattva, which includes all material ingredients. The extension of power by the Lord and the Lord himself personally are one in one sense, but at the same time, the Mahatattva is different from the Lord. Therefore, the potency of the Lord and the Lord are simultaneously different and non-different. The conception of the Virat Rupa, especially for the impersonalist, is thus non-different from the eternal form of the Lord. This eternal form of the Lord exists prior to the creation of the Mahatattva, and it is stressed here that the eternal form of the Lord is par excellence spiritual or transcendental to the modes of material nature. The very same transcendental form of the Lord is manifested by his internal potency, and the formation of his multifarious manifestations of incarnations is always of the same transcendental quality, without any touch of the Mahatattva. 4. Pashyantyado rupam madabhra chakshusha sahasrapado bhujananadbhutam sahasramurthas shravanakshi nasikam sahasramaulyam barakundalolasat. The devotees with their perfect eyes see the transcendental form of the Purusha, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces, all extraordinary. In that body, there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They're decorated with thousands of helmets and glowing earrings and are adorned with garlands. And this form, Srila Sridhar Swami notes, is directly perceived by the yogis. through eyes of knowledge, exalted eyes of knowledge. Here, thousands in this verse indicates unlimited. With our present materialized senses, we cannot perceive anything of the transcendental Lord. Our present senses are to be rectified by the process of devotional service, and then the Lord Himself becomes revealed to us. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the transcendental Lord can be perceived only by pure devotional service. So it is confirmed in the Vedas that only devotional service can lead one to the side of the Lord, and that only devotional service can reveal Him. Bhaktirevainam nayati, bhaktirevainam darshayati, bhaktireva bhuyasi. It is from Mathara Shruti, quoted by Baladev Vidyabhushan, Jiva Goswami, Madhvacharya. In the Brahma Samhita also, it is said that the Lord is always visible to the devotees whose eyes have been anointed with the tinge of devotional service. So we have to take information of the transcendental form of the Lord from persons who have actually seen Him with perfect eyes smeared with devotional service. In the material world also, we do not always see things with our own eyes. We sometimes see through the experience of those who have actually seen or done things. If that is the process for experiencing a mundane object, it is more perfectly applicable in matters transcendental. So only with patience and perseverance can we realize the transcendental subject matter regarding the absolute truth and its different forms. He is formless to the neophyte, but he is in transcendental form to the expert servitor. Etan nanavataranam nidhanam bijam avyayam yasyam sham shena srijyante devatiryam naradayah. This form, the second manifestation of the Purusha, is a source and indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within the universe. From the particles and portions of this form, different living entities like demigods, men, and others are created. So this supreme form, so this form is constantly existing. This is not like the other incarnations who appear and disappear. So this incarnation constantly exists. From the beginning of the universe up to the end of the universe, this incarnation exists. Usually when we think of incarnations, we think that the incarnation appears at a certain point in time and disappears at some other point in time. But this incarnation is not like that. That is pointed out in text 5. This is the original form of Narayan. He is the shelter of the entire universe, which indicates that the various incarnations, after they carry out their duties, they enter into this form. This is the seed. From him, the incarnations come out. But then, even though he is the seed, he's not like other ordinary seeds. He is inexhaustible, indestructible. Avyayam. Bijam avyayam. Indestructible. He's an indestructible seed. He is not only the seed of his own incarnations, but he is also the seed of seed for all creatures. Brahma is his portion. And Marichi and Brahma's other sons are Brahma's portions. So when we say portion, we are talking about expansions. We're talking about those who have the potency, a portion of the potency, like Marichi and the other sons of Brahma. They have a portion of Brahma's potency. Therefore, they are constantly described in the scriptures as amshas of Brahma. Similarly, Brahma is described as an amsha of Lord Narayan, which means that he has a portion of Lord Narayan's potency. Specifically, he has a portion of the Lord's creation potency. The Purusha, after creating innumerable universes in the Mahatattva, entered in each of them as a second Purusha, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. When he saw that within the universe, there were only darkness and space without a resting place, he filled half of the universe with water from his own perspiration and laid himself down on the same water. This water is called Garbhodaka. Then from his navel, the stem of the lotus flower sprouted, and on the flower petals, the birth of Brahma, or the master engineer of the universal plan, took place. Brahma became the engineer of the universe, and the Lord himself took charge of the maintenance of the universe as Vishnu. Brahma was generated from the Rajoguna of Prakriti, or the mode of passion in nature, and Vishnu became the Lord of the mode of goodness. Vishnu, being transcendental to all the modes, is always aloof from materialistic affection. This has already been explained. From Brahma, there is Rudra, Shiva, who is in charge of the mode of ignorance or darkness. He destroys the whole creation by the will of the Lord. Therefore, all three, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, are incarnations of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From Brahma, the other demigods like Daksha, Marichi, Manu, and many others become incarnated to generate living entities within the universe. This Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is glorified in the Vedas in the hymns of Garbhastuti, which begin with the description of the Lord as having thousands of heads, etc. By Garbhastuti, Prabhupada is referring to Purusha Sukta. The Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is the Lord of the universe, and although he appears to be lying within the universe, he is always transcendental. This also has already been explained. The Vishnu, who is the plenary portion of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, is the super soul of the universal life, and he is known as the maintainer of the universe, or Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. So the three features of the original Purusha are thus understood. And all the incarnations within the universe are emanations from this Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. So originally from Karanodakashayi Vishnu, then Garbhodakashayi Vishnu into a particular universe, and then Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, he actually takes charge of maintaining the universe. In different millennia, there are different incarnations, and they are innumerable, although some of them are very prominent, such as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, and many others. These incarnations are called Leela incarnations, Leela avatars. Then there are qualitative incarnations, Guna avatars, such as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva or Rudra, who take charge of the different modes of material nature. Lord Vishnu is not different from the personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is in the marginal position between the personality of Godhead and the living entities or Jivas. Here, Lord Shiva refers to Adi Shiva, the original Lord Shiva described in Brahma Samhita. Brahma is always a Jiva Tattva. The highest living being or the greatest devotee of the Lord is empowered with the potency of the Lord for creation, and he is called Brahma. His power is like the power of the sun reflected in valuable stones and jewels. When there is no such living being to take charge of the post of Brahma, the Lord himself becomes the Brahma and takes charge of the post. Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living being. He is a plenary portion of the Lord. But because, again, this is about Adi Shiva. But because Lord Shiva is in direct touch with material nature, he is not exactly in the same transcendental position as Lord Vishnu. The difference is like that between milk and yogurt. Yogurt is nothing but milk, and yet it cannot be used in the place of milk. The next incarnations are the Manus. Strictly speaking, it refers to the Manvantara incarnations. The Manvantara incarnations are the worshipable deities of the Manus, and they can be described as the super souls of these Manus. Within 1 day's duration of the life of Brahma, which is calculated by our solar year as 4,300,000 times 1,000 years, there are 14 Manus. Therefore, there are 420 Manus in 1 month of Brahma and 5,040 Manus in 1 year of Brahma. Brahma lives for 100 years of his age, and therefore there are 5,040 times 100 times 100, or 504,000 Manus in the duration of Brahma's life. There are innumerable universes with one Brahma in each of them, and all of them are created and annihilated during the breathing time of the Purusha. Therefore, one can simply imagine how many millions of Manus there are during one breath of the Purusha. The Manus who are prominent within this universe are as follows. Yajna as Swayambhuva Manu. This means Yajna is the predominating deity of Swayambhuva Manu. Yajna and Swayambhuva Manu are different persons. But when it says Yajna as Swayambhuva Manu, it indicates that Lord Yajna uses Swayambhuva Manu to execute his purposes. So that is how the remaining Manus are also referred to. We will see later on. Kardama Muni, when he meets Manu, he refers to Manu as a portion of Lord Vishnu. Just with this in mind, because he's empowered by a particular form, Vishnu Tattva form. The Manus are Jivatmas. These are posts for Jivatma. But they are particularly empowered by specific forms of the Lord. These specific forms are the Manvantara incarnations. And they are inseparably associated with those particular Manus. Vibhu as Swarochisha Manu. Satyasena as Uttama Manu. Hari as Tamasa Manu. Vaikuntha as Raivata Manu. Ajita as Chakshusha Manu. Vamana as Vaivaswata Manu. The present age is under the Vaivaswata Manu. Sarvabhauma as Savarni Manu. Rishabha as Daksha Savarni Manu. Vishwaksena as Brahma Savarni Manu. Dharmasetu as Dharma Savarni Manu. Sudhama as Rudra Savarni Manu. Yogeshwara as Deva Savarni Manu. And Bhradvanu as Indra Savarni Manu. In other words, each of them control specific Manus. There, and these are the names of one set of 14 Manus covering 1,000 million billion, 4,300,000,000 solar years as described above. Then there are the Yugavataras or the incarnations of the millennium. The Yugas are known as Sati Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. The incarnation of each Yuga is of a different color. The colors are white, red, black, and yellow. In the Dwapara Yuga, Lord Krishna in black color appeared. And in the Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya in yellow color appeared. So all the incarnations of the Lord are mentioned in the revealed scriptures. There is no scope for an impostor to become an incarnation, for an incarnation must be mentioned in the Shastras. An incarnation does not declare himself to be an incarnation of the Lord, but great sages agree by the symptoms mentioned in the revealed scriptures. The features of the incarnation and the particular type of mission which he has to execute are mentioned in the revealed scriptures. Apart from the direct incarnations, there are innumerable empowered incarnations. See, the Manvantara incarnations, or say Brahma as a Gunavatar, these are also Jivatmas, so they are also empowered. Then why are the Shakti Avesh incarnations separately mentioned? Because Brahma is a post which is required for the regular maintenance of the universe. Similarly, the Manus are required continuously for the maintenance of the universe. Whereas these empowered incarnations only appear occasionally whenever things are required. Then they appear and carry out their duties. They are also mentioned in the revealed scriptures. Such incarnations are directly as well as indirectly empowered. When they are directly empowered, they are called incarnations. When they are indirectly empowered, they are called vibhutis. Directly empowered incarnations are the Kumaras, Narada, Prithu, Shesha, Ananta, etc. As far as the vibhutis are concerned, they are very explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita in the Vibhuti Yoga chapter 11. And for all these different types of incarnations, the fountainhead is the Garvadakashai Vishnu. Indirectly empowered means Krishna empowers someone, who empowers someone, who empowers someone, who empowers someone in that way. And the potency also appears to be lesser and lesser and lesser as we go down the line. There's a question here, how this Adishiva was created. Adishiva is not created. Adishiva is Sadashiva. It's an eternal expansion of Lord Vishnu. Okay.
Prabhu, this Swayambhuva Manu is a post or a jiva?
Swayambhuva Manu, all the Manu is a post which is occupied by a jiva. Like Brahma is a post which is occupied by a jiva in general. Indra is a post which is occupied by a jiva. Manu is also a post occupied by a jiva.
So Swayambhuva Manu and Swarochisa Manu, what is the difference? Jiva named Swayambhuva is occupying the post of Manu?
Yeah, at a particular time.
Okay.
And
Lord Yagya will always be associated with Swayambhuva Manu?
Yes.
Like with that jiva?
No, with that post.
But post is singular, Manu.
There are 14 Manvantaras. Okay. There are 14 Manvantaras. And they go around in a cycle.
So there are 14 different posts.
It appears to be so.
Okay. And then there are 14 forms of Lord associated with this 14
14,
posts.
yeah, respectively.
Okay. Okay.
Another question.
So there are different types of Goloka chats prepared by some devotees. So which one is correct one? Can you tell me?
Well, generally, they seem to be correct now. What is the issue?
No, someone is saying that some mistakes are there in some chats.
We'll have to see each one separately. Individually, you have to see, and only then you can understand.
Yeah, you said Adi Shiva is the direct expansion. So when he is coming?
Eternally there. Prakriti is eternally there, so Prakriti's husband is also eternally there. That's all.
Yes, bro.
6. Saeva prasavam deva. Kaumaram sargamashritah. Chachara dushcharam brahma brahmacharyam akhanditam. First of all, in the beginning of creation, there were the 4 unmarried sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, who, being situated in a vow of celibacy, underwent severe austerities for realization of the absolute truth. So the incarnation of the 4 Kumaras, beginning with Sanat Kumara, as well as their activities, are now stated. This refers to the creation of the sages, the rishis. There are specific names for specific creations. We will see this in the 3rd canto. That is the creation of the rishis, prajapatis, human beings, and so on. So that very Lord who accepted the form of the Vishwarupa, Virat Rupa, that very Lord, during this period of creation known as the Kaumara creation, he became Brahmanas and executed Brahmacharya. Here, when it says first of all, this is just to point out that in this list it's the first. This is not a chronological order necessarily. If you want the chronological order, you have to look at Laghu Bhagavatamrita of Rupa Goswami. The creation of the material world is effected, maintained, and then annihilated at certain intervals. So there are different names of the creations in terms of the particular types of Brahma, the father of the living beings in the creation. In terms of the particular types of Brahma means in terms of the particular moods of Brahma. The Kumaras, as above mentioned, appeared in the Kaumara creation of the material world. There is a particular phase in creation when the Kumaras are manifested, they are created, or they come out of Brahma. And to teach us the process of Brahman realization, they underwent a severe type of disciplinary action as bachelors, Naishtika Brahmacharis. These Kumaras are empowered incarnations. And before executing the severe type of disciplinary actions, all of them became qualified Brahmanas. The example suggests that one must first acquire the qualifications of a Brahmana, not simply by birth, but also by quality, and then one can undergo the process of Brahman realization. So the idea is that first we need to come to the point of being a Brahmana by Guna Karma, after which we can come to the point of Naishtika Brahmacharya, after which we can attain realization of Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. The Kumaras are the source of the Nimbarka Sampradaya. 7. Dvitiyantu bhavayasya prasatalagatam mahim ucharishyam nupadatta yaggesha saukaram vapuhu. The supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices accepted the incarnation of a boar, the second incarnation, and for the welfare of the earth, he lifted the earth from the nether regions of the universe. Now, Sudha Goswami is speaking about the incarnation of Varaha. So he lifted the earth from the nether regions of the universe for the welfare of the earth. This is his specific activity. Just like for the four Kumaras, there are specific activities noted. Here, there is a mention of the specific activity he does when he comes as Varaha. So in this way, throughout this list, the incarnations are presented along with their respective activities. This should be noted. The indication is that for each and every incarnation of the personality of Godhead, the particular function executed is also mentioned. There cannot be any incarnation without a particular function, and such functions are always extraordinary. They are impossible for any living being to perform. The incarnation of the boar was to take the earth out of Pluto's region of filthy matter. Picking up something from a filthy place is done by a boar, and the all-powerful personality of God displayed this wonder to the asuras who had hidden the earth in such a filthy place. There is nothing impossible for the personality of Godhead, and although he played the part of a boar, by the devotees he is worshipped, staying always in transcendence. 8. Tritiyam rishisargam vai devarshitvam upetyasa tantram satvatam achashta aishkarmyam karmanam yataha. In the millennium of the Rishis, the personality of Godhead accepted the third empowered incarnation in the form of Devashi Narada, who is a great sage among the demigods. He collected expositions of the Vedas which deal with devotion service and which inspire non-fruitive action. So now Sudha Goswami mentions the incarnation of Narada Muni. So this was in the millennium of the Rishis, Rishi Sargam. Specifically, Narada Muni appeared as a Devarshi, and he spoke Tantram Satvatam, exposition of the Vedas, which is especially meant for devotional service, which means he presented Vaishnava Tantra, known as Pancharatra Agama, the Pancharatric scriptures. He explained them. From those scriptures, one will become free from the bondage of karmic reactions. He taught a process by which these very fruitive activities will be helpful for liberation. Normally, these material activities are binding, considered to be binding. But these are presented in the Pancharatric scriptures in a particular manner, mixed with devotion service to Lord Hari, in a particular manner, in such a manner that you increasingly engage in devotion service to Lord Vishnu. So then these activities no longer eclipse devotion service to Lord Vishnu. So by executing pure devotion service to the Supreme Lord with awe and reverence, we can attain Vaikuntha, which is attainment of liberation. Achyutanam Prabhu had a question.
Prabhuji, in 6th verse, the sequence which we get first, when become Brahmana by good karma, then we can raise on the platform of Naishtik Brahmacharya. Then only comes the point of realizing Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan.
First one has to become Brahmana, then one becomes a sannyasi, then one becomes a realized Paramahamsa. Naishtik Brahmacharya is same as sannyas only, in case you didn't know that.
I heard the rumors, but I was not sure about
it. Both you accept the same austerity. One is more deluxe and celebrity. I think that this is given as a trial version. Full-fledged trial version. The great Rishi Narada, who is an empowered incarnation of the personality of God, propagates devotion service all over the universe. All great devotees of the Lord all over the universe and in different planets and species of life are his disciples. Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is also one of his disciples. Narada is the author of the Narada Pancharatra, which is the exposition of the Vedas, particularly for the devotional service of the Lord. This Narada Pancharatra trains the karmis or the fruitive workers to achieve liberation from the bondage of fruitive work. The conditioned souls are mostly attracted by fruitive work because they want to enjoy life by the sweat of their own brows. The whole universe is full of fruitive workers in all species of life. The fruitive workers include all kinds of economic development plans, but the law of nature provides that every action has its resultant reaction. The performer of the work is bound up by such reactions, good or bad. The reaction of good work is comparative material prosperity, whereas the reaction of bad work is comparative material distress. But material conditions, either in so-called happiness or in so-called distress, are all meant ultimately for distress only. Foolish materialists have no information of how to obtain eternal happiness in the unconditioned state. Narada informs these foolish fruitive workers how to realize the reality of happiness. He gives direction to the diseased men of the world, how one's present engagement can lead one to the path of spiritual emancipation. The physician directs the patient to take treated milk in the form of yogurt for his sufferings from indigestion due to his taking another milk preparation. So the cause of the disease and the remedy of the disease may be the same, but it must be treated by an expert physician like Narada. The Bhagavad Gita also gives the same solution of serving the Lord by the fruits of one's labor that will lead one to the path of Naishkarmya or liberation. So the teachings of Pancharatra are best explained by Sri Ramanujacharya. So anyone who's interested in understanding the essence of the teachings of the Pancharatric scriptures would do well to study Ramanujacharya's writing. Mohan Radhapati.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I was asking about this. So this the two types of sarga is mentioned here: Rishi sarga and Kaumar sarga. I missed it.
We will see that in third canto. There are many more. There are 10 phases of creation. 10 sargas will come. Prabhu.
Prabhuji, a fruitive worker works for the results. Is this statement correct? That he desires particular results. That's why he's working.
A fruitive worker is a karmi. He is a worker. He engages, he is obedient to Lord Vishnu's instructions, material and spiritual. And just as people go to company to work because they want money with which they can enjoy. So these people, they want pious credits with which they can experience artha and kama. Okay. So these are the karmis. These are the fruitive workers. These are pious fruitive workers. Then there are simple people.
If I also obey the codes given by Lord Vishnu and I am desiring certain results, for example, in preaching, will it fall under this fruitive?
No, everywhere there are results. The jnani is interested in the result of liberation from material existence and Brahman realization. The yogi wants the same but he wants Brahman and Paramatma realization. Whereas those who are pure devotees, they also don't want to be bound by the delusions of material existence, and they want to attain eternal service unto Bhagavan and realize Him. So everybody is result oriented. That is not the issue. The issue here is what result are you anchoring for?
Okay, bro. Thank you, bro.
9. तुर्ये धर्मकला सर्गे नरन नारायण ऋषि भूत्वात्मोपशमोपेतम अकरोत् दुष्टरम तपः. In the 4th incarnation, the Lord became Nara and Narayana, the twin sons of the wife of King Dharma. Thus, he undertook severe and exemplary penances to control the senses. This is an incarnation known as Nara Narayana. So this is 4th in the list. And he was born from Dharma Kala. Kala means a portion, and the wife is considered a portion of the husband. It is noted in the Shruti that a wife is considered half of oneself. Both of them are considered to be one incarnation, just as the 4 Kumaras are considered one incarnation. As King Rishabha advised his sons tapasya, or voluntary acceptance of penance for realization of the transcendence, is the only duty of the human being. No. As King Rishabha advised his sons, tapasya, or voluntary acceptance of penance for realization of the transcendence, is the only duty of the human beings. It was so done by the Lord Himself in an exemplary manner to teach us. The entire Vedic culture is focused on this. Those who are outside of Vedic culture do not even have a sense of this. They do not even have a sense of this. They simply think that you are supposed to just live your life, enjoy. Okay, do some good to yourself and do good to others. Don't harm others, but just basically live and die. That's all. There's nothing beyond that. There's no reincarnation either. The Lord is very kind to the forgetful souls. He therefore comes Himself and leaves behind necessary instructions, and also sends His good sons as representatives to call all the conditioned souls back to Godhead. Recently, within the memory of everyone, Lord Chaitanya also appeared for the same purpose, to show special favor to fallen souls of this age of iron industry. The incarnation of Narayana is worshipped still at Badri Narayana on the range of the Himalayas. Okay, so I'm going to stop with that. Okay. Panchayabhadra Vyasya Kasan Vidya Vacha Padhanam Bhavani Vya Vaishnava